Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is strength. And I'm not really talking about the physical bodily strength that we normally associate with that word, but with the inner strength and fortitude that allows us to face life with courage and compassion and curiosity and love. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating this brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, all those sensations, including the tickling and tingling when you stop. Allow all those feelings, all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. Great to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. And today we're talking about strength. And the other word that comes to mind as I think about strength is vulnerability. Because when I think about strength, the initial impression is bracing and constricting or contracting muscles and readying oneself for some kind of physical challenge. And there are so many different dimensions of strength. We can think of strength in terms of inner fortitude or resilience, and maybe strength of character, strength of mind. I think strength is not just a function of physical prowess. So when we think about strength of character, I think it's a really, really interesting inquiry. I was speaking with a client yesterday who was talking about good and evil and wanting to be able to be more present to, more conscious of, more integrated with their dark side. And it was very interesting to look at what does that mean to integrate your dark side. And what we came to was that the dark side, our darkness, acts as a foil, as a contrast for us to choose the light in a way. As we recognize that we have choice, that we have the opportunity to be choosing something that may not best serve our values and our greater intentions. And then we make the choice that we have a greater reverence for, that is reinforcing our strength. I'm going to say strength of character, where our darkness is almost an advisor, because without the contrast of the darkness, we don't recognize the light, right? Light and darkness exist together to define each other. And so when we're confronted by a choice about how to behave in a given situation, for instance, we could choose to go with our more base instincts, or we could choose to honor our higher instincts or our lighter instincts. And there's a strength about that like regular exercise, we can continue to strengthen. Now, I'm not saying that we need to, excuse me, I'm not saying that we need to cultivate situations where we're challenged over and over in order to create that strength of character. However, good morning, Dido. Welcome. It's great to have you here this morning. We're talking about strength, and right now, strength of character. But it's easy to be, quote unquote, good when there are no challenges, right? And it's when we recognize the challenges that are calling us into a darker side, that we get to really bolster our strengths in focusing toward the light. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about the state of the world and the wars and the atrocities that are being perpetrated by people around the world and on our planet, not just on other humans. And when we as light workers or people that are trying to propagate light fall into the darkness of the despair around that, without rising up and bringing more light to the situation. Yesterday was the Day of Peace on Enlightened World Network, and that's really what it was about, was bringing the potential for peace to humanity, rather than getting immersed in the conflicts that exist and trying to choose sides. And I loved what Ruth Anderson said yesterday, is that someone had asked her whose side she was on, and she said she was on the side of peace and that she was on the side of humanity. And it's when we are tested in this kind of situation as light workers, where we're tested by being drawn in or enchanted into this despair and devastation of the world, rather than choosing. It's the time when we need to summon our strength to choose to be bringing forth light. So there's a strength in being able to do that, and being willing to do that, and to choose that again and again and again. And with physical strength, I think we all know that the more you exercise muscles, the over time, the more you strengthen them. And I think this is the case with our character, our thinking. So strength of thought is to be recognizing the source of our thought, and to recognize when we're on automatic, to be strengthening our ability to be present, to be strengthening our ability to actually choose. In this conversation yesterday about light and dark, it was really interesting because what came up was the Crusades and how the Crusaders believed themselves to be emissaries of light and perpetrated incredible atrocities in the name of light and righteousness. And I think that we see that in so many places. We see that in our political struggles. We see that in our country struggles. We see that in policy, where people who believe so passionately in their own position that they are willing to decimate others. It's a very interesting dynamic. You know, I was talking to someone who was very passionate about a particular human rights issue, and they said, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. And while I have a deep respect for that degree of conviction and passion, I think we get to look at how we implement our intentions. So just that phrase, a hill to die on, comes from our orientation of or toward conflict and combat and fighting and domination and control. And it was interesting because when I brought that to this person's attention, they wanted to dismiss it as a figure of speech. And I asserted that it was really important to notice what that figure of speech implied and what the underlying beliefs, orientation, context, assumptions were. So Rosalind says, how do we give our power away? If there's something that's important to you, where are you spending your time? So two sides of that. That's really interesting, Rosalind. So how do we give our power away? One is by not being present to our authentic heart, because if we don't know how we feel about something, if we don't have an alignment with our inner compass, then it's easy to, or if we do, and then we deny that alignment or we deny that truth, that's one way that we give our power away. If we make concessions that feel like a violation to our essential truth and being. Now, it's interesting that, we're talking about this as far as violating your own sense of what's true and what's right, at the same time that we're talking about this blind righteousness. And where do we draw the line between the two? I'm not certain. I think it has to do with how we are pursuing our values and our intention, and what kind of crusade we're on. It's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing to be in a space where you have deeply held convictions that are in opposition to the convictions of others whose convictions are also deeply held. And then what? And how do we navigate that? I don't have answers. I have a lot of questions. And I think that we get maybe to connect with a higher value. Maybe we get to find a place where there are common values held. And maybe we get to work back from there. And I think that there's a strength in being willing and able to truly entertain the views of others with an ear toward understanding. I don't know, it gets pretty messy. What can I say? I'm not really facile with figuring out. I don't have answers about this. And I think maybe the trick might be to be approaching these things with curiosity instead of trying to fix things, maybe with curiosity to be able to explore and discover aspects of something that we didn't really or don't really comprehend, to be enjoining one another in a dialogue. It's not always easy to do because there's not always a willingness to talk. I think it takes some strength of presence to be able to truly listen and engage. Courage, anyway. So strength, I think our knee-jerk idea of strength is a very masculine kind of thing, whereas feminine strength, I think, is, and I'm talking about in an archetypal way, not male female, but feminine strength is more fluid, I think, and more connected versus oppositional. And together we're stronger kind of idea. And so Rosalind also had said, if there's something that's important to you, where are you spending your time? So strength in terms of our willingness, coming back always to being present, and what that means is really being present to listening, being present to what's there rather than all of our own programming, to be sort of clearing the visual field, to be removing the veil so that we can be as truly present as possible. Good morning, good evening, Gia. Welcome. So good to have you here with us. We're talking about strength, and strength of character, and strength of body, mind, and spirit, I guess. Rosalind says, assertive versus aggressive. You can uphold a position, but not have to make the other person think the way you do. I like that distinction, assertive in versus aggressive. I think that line gets crossed so easily from assertive to aggressive that we project forward our fears, and because we have our own sensitivities, we project outward. When there's something that we're really passionate about, it can, in defending it, we can appear quite aggressive. And that's because we're coming from a place of being threatened oftentimes, where we take someone's disagreement personally, and we out of our insecurity or whatever, our own inner dynamics, we respond in hostile ways. And until we have a willingness, and I don't know how it might come about, it's a quantum shift of consciousness, but until we have a willingness to transcend our separation, I think we'll continue to have conflict. If we can presence ourselves to our interconnectedness, it often takes tremendous strength of conviction to be willing to listen with an open heart. And the strength of conviction is that my commitment is to communication, my commitment is to connection. So it often takes a lot of strength and courage to be willing to continually relax your defense offense kind of mechanism in order to really find connection with another person. And it becomes a true conundrum when the beliefs and perspectives held by that other person are so deeply counter to your own, and are so deeply offend your sensibilities. So it's very interesting to just wonder how we might transcend our differences. So welcome. I'm thinking that you're life omnipresent, unconditional love. Well, yeah. How as humans do we get to unconditional love? I think what it requires is that we find that place of connection. It's interesting. I wonder, I don't think that unconditional love means tacit acceptance of conditions. I think we get to recognize no eternal truth, unchanged, real is love. Unchanged, I'm not certain, but I'm kind of getting what you're saying is that all is love ultimately. And everything that we experience is overlaid on that to the point where we often can't even conceive of, let alone find that essential love. And I think that the only real eternal truth is love. And presencing that is a human challenge, right? Finding the way to be that love is a challenge. Takes strength of character, strength of being, and spirit. For me, the Rosalind says, not being as triggered, having thoughts, becoming aware of them, doesn't mean you have to agree with all of them. Yes, exactly. So recognizing our own process in the presence of conversation and potentially opening that conversation so that we can have this dynamic between each other that allows us to be human and be connecting through our human experience, and to be able to say, wow, I'm really triggered right now. I'm noticing this, and this, and to have another level of conversation in a place of responsibility for our own reactions and responses. I think that that's really rare. We get tied into a cycle of reaction, and it does take awareness, presence, to be able to step out of being at the effect of our triggers and our reactivity and our self-protection and our righteousness, all of that. So cultivating strength, Gia says, showing vulnerability is so difficult at times. For sure it is, Gia. And it's not always safe to do that. It's not always, unfortunately, it's not always smart to do that. But if we can allow our own, I think that presence is a very different kind of vulnerability, where we have an openness, we have a willingness to connect, to notice what's at play. So I'm not sure how to interpret this last comment. Form, body is the block created thought system based on untrue, false, illusion, ego, mind identity, which is changing moment by moment because it's not real. It's full of fear. Yes, yes. And so having the courage and the strength to face our fears, to dissolve our fears, to become more and more whole, more and more present without the overlay of the illusions that we've been programmed with, or the beliefs, to just be able to be more present in the world as it is, I think is a big, I don't know how possible it is. It's something to be moving toward. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And with that note, thank you for that. With that note, we're going to wrap up for this morning. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I so appreciate your willingness to engage in these conversations and these inquiries, and to be willing to be exploring with compassion and curiosity. And so I'm honored and humbled by the opportunity to engage with you all this way. So until next time, so much love to you.